Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. We meet again for the part 3 of week 6 topic. Now, last week we learned about inductive um, reasoning, to which we distinguish between strong and weak argument. Now, for deductive argument, we are actually looking at two kinds of validity, whether the argument is valid or invalid. So deductive argument can be divided into two parts, valid or invalid. Now, in order for you to know whether that argument is valid or invalid, this is the key question that you may want to ask yourself. If the argument's premises were true, would the conclusion also have to be true? If you answer yes, then it is valid. But if you answer no, then the argument becomes invalid. Now let us look at the example. Premise number 1, the Eiffel Tower is in Paris. Premise number 2, Paris is in France. And Paris, in conclusion, therefore the Eiffel Tower is in France. Now, if we were to examine the first premise, the Eiffel Tower is in Paris, that, that premise is true. Now, let us look at the second premise. Paris is in France. That premise is also true. Therefore, it is certain that the conclusion will be true. So the question, if this argument is valid or invalid, the answer is valid. Now let us look at the second example. The first premise states that the Eiffel Tower is in London. The second premise states that London is in England. The third premise said that, therefore, the Eiffel Tower is in England. Now, as you can see here, you may think that the conclusion is wrong because logically, Eiffel Tower is not in England, it's in France. But unfortunately, this argument is valid. Now, why is that so? Here you must remember, when it comes to the validity of an argument, if only the conclusion follows the premises and the premises are thought to be true, therefore the conclusion is true, despite some of the premises may not be true or may not be logical. Now let us look at the first premise. The Eiffel Tower is in London. Now that premise is false. However, let's just pretend that for the sake of this argument, the premise is true. Now, it's true in what way? This is the given premise. Like it or not, you just have to accept this premise. So this is true. The second premise, London is in England. This is also true. Therefore, the Eiffel Tower is in England. Now let us look back here. If we were to use this argument and to compare this with the common patterns. If A is in B, then B is in C. Therefore, A is in C. Can you still remember that common pattern? Yeah, so if this fits in that common pattern, therefore this is a deductive argument. When this is a deductive argument, for the sake of arguing, we have to pretend that the premises are all true. Although, logically, one of the premises is not true, and that is the first premise. And also, logically, the conclusion is not true. But in this case, the conclusion is true because it follows exactly the pattern that fits the deductive argument. I hope you get this part, yeah? Let us look at example number 3. Example number 3 is very much similar to example number 2. All pigs are sheep, all sheep are goats, therefore all pigs are goats. Now, as you can see here, all pigs are sheep is false. All sheep are goats is true. Therefore, all pigs are goats is false. Very similar to the previous. But this argument is still valid. because it fits with the pattern. If A is B, then B is C, then A is C. It fits with the pattern, therefore it falls under deductive argument, and it is valid because the conclusion follows exactly the description of the pattern, unless we turn it out the other way around. If we were to say that therefore all pigs are humans, then it does not fit at all with the description, therefore it is invalid. Can you see? So in this case, I would like you to bear in mind that we are not actually looking at the meaning of the context of the sentence. Instead, we are looking at the way that it is structured according to the patterns so that it can derive a conclusion that it seems to be true based on the premises given. Now let us look at the example number 4. Some people like spinach. That would be the first premise. Some people like anchovies. That would be the second premise. The conclusion is, therefore, some people who like spinach also like anchovies. Now, this kind of argument is invalid. Why? Because the conclusion is false. Now, always remember that when the conclusion is false, based on the given premises, therefore, it is invalid, because the conclusion has to be true based on the given premises or asserted premises. Now let us stop for a while for you to do some quick exercises. Please go to the following link.